Hello, this is Pastor Matthew Woods, and this is the daily update for Thursday, April 16th, 2020. I don't know about you, but I'm not always good about patience. However, once in a while, I don't have a choice except to be patient, so I know this sounds funny. I choose to be patient. Last year, we ordered a set of light sconces, 4 of them, and we saw them on Amazon, but we also found them half price at a company, and of all places, Hong Kong, China. So we gave it a shot. We ordered them, and an email quickly popped up and said, "Hey, be here in 2 weeks." Great, this is perfect. Be just in time to get the thing done and basically hand over the keys to the kids. Well, about a month later, after several email exchanges, I discovered that the tariffs on the stuff from China had gone into effect and seriously slowed down the progress of our lights. Well, I exchanged many emails with the company in Hong Kong, polite but firm, asking what the deal was, and quite honestly, I don't think they knew what to tell us. But they kept kind of putting us off. More than a few times we had these discussions, but I finally got to a point where I decided to see things through. I chose to remain patient. I don't know exactly where these things were. I just know after 2 months of waiting that they'd come over on a cruise ship or a container ship, but I don't know if they were cruising on vacation or why it took so long. But now, after 2 months, they were at a port on the West Coast waiting for the next step, waiting to get to us in southern Indiana. Well, by this point, we sort of let it go, and we stopped worrying about it and actually sort of forgot about it. And somewhere almost 3 months later, the UPS guy dropped off a package, and there they were, my 4 lights, perfect and ready to go. I was quite relieved to be able to open up the packages and find them intact and perfectly fine. We quickly discovered that the lights were ready to put up, so we put them up. And they wired them in progression, so one fed to the next. So the first one fed to the second one, the second one to the third, and so on. But they had insult or injury, as if the trip over was not enough. Had one more little issue. I got to about 3 lights into the process, and at the third light, I went to try the switch, and they didn't come on. Now what? So slowly but surely, I processed my way through this and discovered there was a short in the very first light, which is why none of them worked. Turns out a wire had gotten pinched behind some metal, and the metal gradually, slowly, with the pressure that was on it, pushed into the wire and shorted it out. So once I figured it out, I was able to fix it and set it back up, and lo and behold, all 4 of those lights work beautiful. They work perfectly. They give off light just the way we'd hoped, and not only that, but we have a story to tell that goes with them. So our patience paid off in more ways than one, you might say. I've come away with more than I expected. Now, many of us have heard of the patience of Job, but what about the patience of Noah? In Genesis 6:9-31, God gives instructions to Noah to build an ark. The passage begins with verse 9 saying that this is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. And then the passage ends in verse 31. Noah did everything that the Lord had commanded him, which is not a small list when you look at it closely. Do you think patience was involved? Let's consider Noah. Noah was a righteous man in a wicked world, a fallen world, a world that was plagued, if you will. Noah faced many people and many things totally outside of his control. We know that feeling. This infectious virus and the shutdowns that we are enduring, none of that's within our control. But these things still require our patience. On the other hand, Noah did what he could do, also all that he could do, in fact. And so have we. 20 seconds of hand washing, mitigation techniques, separation. We've been doing all we've asked to do in order to help do our part in fighting this virus. Now, I believe Noah was a righteous man with a brilliant mind for engineering and math. He had to be in order to make this thing happen. I believe he was exactly the right guy at the right time to build the ark. The ark was not small by any stretch. By most estimations, it was a box 75 feet high, which is as tall as an oak in southern Indiana, 75 feet wide, and 450 feet long. That's the guess. It would have required millions of board feet precisely cut and fitted together so that thing would even float. The logistical planning alone probably took many years. Gathering materials probably took several lifetimes. Specific tools and equipment also had to be created and made. Some believe that Noah compiled all these materials for generations and decades, and then towards the end had a major barn building event. Who knows? I mean, that certainly fits with what David did with the temple, right? He gathered all the materials, but it was his son Solomon who actually built the temple. It is, after all, called not David's temple, but Solomon's temple. That's how the first temple was described. It was nicknamed Solomon's temple. So it takes a lot of patience, what Noah did. And he chose to offer that patience. He chose patience. And he went forward and built that ark and faithfully accomplished what God had set out for him to do. Now remember, Noah is a righteous man. His patience is secured in his love and his firm trust that he held in God. And that is the lesson here today. We are usually most patient, frankly, with those we love. The more we love them, the more patience will dole out. Our children, for example, require lots of it, sometimes lots and lots of it. For others, we may choose to simply trust them. Patience is also rooted in trust. The more we trust someone, the more we're willing to wait, for example. I chose to trust the company sending the lights. Therefore, I also chose to be patient. See, they go hand in hand. In doing one thing, I was doing the other. And by the way, in doing so, I also didn't give in to my doubts, which, if they'd gotten a foothold into my mind, could have left me restless and without a lot of peace. Even though I had no fondness or love or emotion for the company, I chose to trust the information they were sending me. This is effectively what we're doing now with social distancing, aren't we? But we do so also in love for our families, in love for our neighbor. We act in love for those folks. So there is love involved. So patience is the order of the day. As I speak to you today, it's already been 4 weeks that we haven't had church together, and this week will be 5. Yes, I'm counting. Experts are suggesting that we'll go to the middle of May. It might feel like 120 years by the time this is done, the same length it took to build the ark. Time away from the office, from our families, from loved ones, from the Lord's house, from receiving the Lord's Supper. So let's drive home an important point, that patience is never exercised independently. When we hear from places like Galatians 5, 22 and 23, which lists the fruits of the Spirit, patience is one of many in a list of gifts provided by the Holy Spirit. And it is interdependent upon love and joy and kindness and goodness and faithfulness and gentleness and self-control. All of these fruits are practiced things as much as they are the things that identify God's people. Patience is a gift of Jesus. Patience is packaged in the love of Jesus, a love for Jesus, our trust in Jesus, in his word and what he gives us. Nowhere is this more true than in the way Jesus was patient with us, with his disciples, with the masses, and even with his enemies as he cried out, "Father, forgive them," as they're sacrificing him on the cross. He exercised the Father's will perfectly in patience and obedience. And Jesus has given us every reason to wait patiently as we hope in our resurrection that's been promised through his resurrection, that Easter promise that we just celebrated. Patience practiced in faith blesses those who practice it and those who receive it. Finally, we recognize that patience blesses the future. Like Noah, our patience will be rewarded. The culture that this virus thing has created, that's going to end. Our hand washing, the fuss about TP and haircuts, stay-at-home orders, fear, danger of being sick, the logistics of doing everything online. At some point, our culture that this virus has created will fade away. Our patience will pay off. Patience is what Christians do. We don't just wait patiently, or if you will, passively. Our patience is active as it trusts in Christ and in Jesus. Patience is not a nothing. Patience is doing something. It's full of opportunity. Patience enhances our faith with love for God and our neighbor, and with anticipation that at some point where we are will end and a new beginning will come. It's what we do as we hope in the resurrection, after all. And my prayer today is simple, that as we practice patience, we also get better at love and better at trust and better at our hope and in other things too that are Christian. Noah landed on dry ground, and he brought with him those better things. A world that has been stricken with COVID-19, I pray that the same thing would happen there. That as we emerge from our arcs of social distancing, that we might bring with us those better things, and that there be a better future because of it. I ask you to pray for our first responders. I ask you to pray for our people on the front lines. I ask you to pray for those who are sick and needing recovering. I ask you to pray for those who are without a job right now, who are wondering what will be in when the day comes. But I pray more than anything that in the end, what we do as Christians when this is over, that we bring something that allows people to tell a story that is positive when this is all done. Much like we talk about Noah's Ark, much like I've talked about the lights, but something that is positive, that people can look back and say, yes, Jesus was at work here. Our patience is paid off. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you with his favor and forever and always give you his peace. Take care. We'll see you soon.